Dinosaurus sounds like a dinosaur that Homer Simpson made up.
It's a dinosaurus.
Oh my God, you're right.
Ash and Zach are super smart. They went to college and learned a bunch of stuff. And Bo and Andrew didn't go to college because that's just the way life goes sometimes. What happens when you put them together and you try to make them learn? Grab your friends, let's listen together on Get Dumped On an Info Dump Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Get Dumped On, an Infodump podcast. This is the podcast where four friends get together. We talk about things that we like. We talk about things that we learned. We invite our friends to talk about things that they like and things that they learned. If this is your first time, welcome. I'm glad to have you here. I hope that you're excited to learn. If you're old here, it's exactly the same message. I'm glad you're here, and I hope you're excited to learn.
You old bitch.
Yeah. As always, I'm here with a little so-and-so named Bo.
Hey, it's me, so-and-so, Bo.
A little, oh no, it's so hard to ride with Andrew. A little Andrew.
No. Give me a good one. Come on.
Oh, gosh. A part of the man crew, it's Andrew.
That's fine. That's fine. Hello.
The best part of the man crew, it's Andrew.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying.
Fuck me and Zach.
I just felt bad because it's so hard to rhyme with Andrew.
You know it's true. The Drew.
Yeah.
Call him the Zach attack. He loves it.
Yeah,
No,
it's
I
his
fucking
favorite
hate
thing.
it. Don't
And
call me Zach
hosting
attack.
today, my favorite person in the entire world,
Oh, thanks.
whose name transcends a rhyme, it's Zach.
Attack.
Hi. Fuck you. I'm quitting the
We're going up for the
podcast.
Zach attack. Woo!
Yeah.
I'm quitting the podcast. All right, because you did that, I'm subjecting you to 5,000 words about dinosaurs.
I feel like you're going to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do
You would have
anyway.
done it on mic or off mic. You would have just been on a tangent.
How many dinosaurs are in Warhammer 40,000? Go.
Oh,
That would be punishment.
Was there any in RoboCop?
And if there weren't any, would you add any?
There's one stop motion dinosaur in one of the commercial sequences in RoboCop. There's a couple of dinosaurs in Warhammer 40,000. They're
That was a
alien
rhetorical
dinosaurs
question.
That Eldar Exodites ride.
What's your favorite dinosaur movie?
Oh God.
Okay.
it's a stellar segue.
Yeah, that's a stellar segue because we're going to be talking about the dinosaurs that are featured in the
Little
most
known
iconic,
cult indie film.
little known cult indie film that I'm not sure our entire audience
The
has
Land
watched.
Before Time?
Jurassic Park.
Oh.
Never heard of her.
Mainly because I've been wanting to do an episode about dinosaurs. I was a dinosaur kid, like hardcore style. We grew up pretty close to. Yeah, and still am. I'm actually wearing, this is completely incidental. I'm currently wearing my hoodie from the American Museum of Natural History that has a stegosaurus on it.
Oh.
I did not do that on purpose. I just realized that I'm wearing it.
It's a comfy sweater.
It's
Yeah,
a
on
very
purpose.
comfy sweater. But I grew up pretty close to Yale, New Haven, which is where the Peabody Museum is, which is where, I don't remember if it was Marsh or Cope, but one of the big deal paleontologists of the late 1800s was centered there. And so it's got a really good collection of dinosaurs. And so I grew up going there on my birthdays. I actually didn't see Jurassic Park until I was a little bit older. It came out when I was 3, but I was too scared for Jurassic Park back then. But it's a very good movie. So I've been wanting to talk about dinosaurs, but there's so many dinosaurs. Like, how do you even talk about dinosaurs? So I decided that what I wanted to do was talk about the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park in terms of how correctly do they portray the dinosaurs that they're portraying at the time, and then based on what we knew at the time, and then how accurate they still are based on what we know now.
Okay.
Because paleontology is a pretty cool field. It's progressed a lot in the 30 years since Jurassic Park came out. It's progressed a lot in the last even 10 years. It's kind of really interesting, the stuff that we've learned about some of these species since it happened.
And so if Jurassic Park were made today, what would they look like? What would it look like?
Well, they're still
Who would
making
play the
Jurassic
main
Park
character?
movies.
No,
They're
I mean
still
like the
making
original
Jurassic
one, though.
Park
Like if
movies.
Jurassic Park didn't exist and they made the first one today in 2024.
Yeah. I actually even cut it down. I cut a couple of the dinosaurs out because this was already going to be too long. So what I also really wanted to do is, if this goes over well with our audience, I would want to do a follow-up for the dinosaurs featured in the second and third movies, specifically the third movie, because I want to talk about Spinosaurus, because the story of the paleontology of Spinosaurus is actually like buck wild, and it's going through some really crazy stuff right now. But I have to start with the first one, and because this way I get to talk about Tyrannosaurus Rex. But I'm going to talk about him last so that everybody listens to the whole episode.
Oh, damn it.
That's called engagement. That's called getting the hooks in.
That's called hostage.
Yeah.
That's called terrorism, sir.
I don't think it's terrorism because everything else in the middle is very interesting. At least it is to me, which means I hope it's interesting to everyone else. Dinosaurs are pretty cool. So paleontology, yeah, it's Jurassic Park came out at a really interesting time. Paleontology was in a cool place in the early 90s because it was kind of the beginning of, and Jurassic Park itself was kind of responsible for the beginning of the kind of like third big paleontological wave and the beginning of the popular idea that dinosaurs were like cool active animals versus like sluggish lizards. This is kind of at the end of like a lot of research being done to support the links to birds. And more people were suggesting that they were warm-blooded. And now, like today, in the past 30 years, a lot of the research, like we found more specimens of these animals. The technology's gotten better, particularly in terms of like imaging, like doing x-rays of the fossils, CAT scans of the fossils. Just like our microscopes are better now. And like some of the preserved like cellular structures can be seen. So like some of the dinosaurs, you can tell what color they are now.
I love that.
Which is so crazy. And so just to think about how it's gone in the past 30 years, and you got to think about like, what is it even going to be 30 years from now? Because like now we want to say that like we have the most accurate version of what they could have like looked and acted like. But that's just based on, you know, our technology now. Who knows what the technology will be in 30 years.
Freaking time travel. Go back and look at them.
Yeah. And then like some dinosaurs we've got relatively complete skeletons of, but because of the way the fossilization works, we have like really incomplete versions of other dinosaurs. Like for the longest time, Therizinosaurus was just arms. It was just some disembodied arm that somebody was like, these arms are really fucking big. What did this belong to? I don't know. And then eventually they found all the other parts. And now we know that it's a really weird giant dinosaur. And then like the opposite, Spinosaurus, we still haven't found any Spinosaurus arms. We know what the rest of it looks like, but not the arms. Who knows?
You know that it had arms?
It probably had arms.
What if it was the big arm that they found? They were wrong.
They're just
And
tacking
it
on
was a
that guy instead.
Spinosaurus.
Maybe.
And he just had really, really long arms because he just worked out so fucking much.
Yeah, I don't know.
He was a big, strong boy.
Big, strong boy. So, Bo, how many dinosaurs do you think you could fight?
Asking the important questions here, sir. Are they fully grown or babies?
There's one dinosaur in this that I think you would be able to fight, and I don't think it's going to be the one that you're thinking it's going to be. So let's kind of get into it.
All right, I'll say
so
5.
intrigued.
I'll say 5 right now. Set the bar low.
So just to talk about which dinosaurs we're going to be talking about, there was, in order of appearance, Jurassic Park had Brachiosaurus, Parasaurolophus from very far away and for a very short period of time, Triceratops, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Dilophosaurus, Gallimimus, and Velociraptor. Now, do you remember do you know what Jurassic means? Like, do you know the meaning of the word Jurassic?
Bo, he's asking you.
Yeah, just in case anybody, just say it for everyone else who doesn't, you know.
So the period of time that the dinosaurs lived in is called the Mesozoic. And this is from 251 to 66 million years ago. Now, the Mesozoic is broken up into 3 major time periods. There's the Triassic, which was 251 to 201 million years ago. There was the Jurassic, which is 201 to 145 million years ago. And there's the Cretaceous, which is 145 to 66 million years ago. So this is kind of sandwiched in between 2 major extinction events. There was something called the Great Dying, which started off the Triassic.
That's some Victorian shit.
Which may have been the largest mass extinction in Earth's history. And then ended with the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction, which is when the Earth got slammed by a big fucking asteroid and created a crater in the Yucatan Peninsula. So of these dinosaurs, how many of them do you think actually lived in the Jurassic period?
Ooh, how many are there?
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
3. I'm going low.
2.5.
Which half?
Bottom half.
What do you think, Andrew?
I don't know. Pass.
Okay. The answer is 2.
No, so
2
close.
of the
Ah.
7 dinosaurs actually lived in the Jurassic period, and those 2 are Brachiosaurus and Dilophosaurus. And so we'll talk about them. So let's get going with this. I'm going to first talk about the non-theropod dinosaurs, and then I'm going to talk about theropod dinosaurs, because this movie is very biased towards theropods. And so when I say theropod, I am referring to, like, when you think of a Tyrannosaurus, when you think of a Velociraptor, when you think of like a dinosaur that's kind of very bird-like, standing on 2 legs with a long tail out behind the back of it, that is a theropod. There's other dinosaurs that are not theropod, but theropods are the ones that are the most closely related to birds.
Scary.
Yeah.
The scariest ones.
So they're the scariest ones, but they're also kind of cool, a little cute. So first, we're going to talk about a Brachiosaurus. So for reference for you guys, as you know which one the Brachiosaurus is, this is this one here. I downloaded a picture of it.
Okay, yes. Yeah, it's the very classic one that goes around on all 4 legs. It's got the longest neck and a very long tail, and it's giant.
Yes.
And it's when they're coming like out of the lake or something at the beginning of Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is a type of dinosaur. It is called a sauropod. Sauropods are the long-necked ones, very big, very heavy, pretty
They got
cool.
tiny little back legs. It's kind of funny.
Tiny little back legs. It's funny because it looks like they have a tiny little idiot head, but it's actually gigantic, which is fun because of how big they are in general.
Just because they're gigantic in general. It does look like they have a tiny idiot head.
Yeah. So Brachiosaurus as a genus lived in North America during the late Jurassic. So the fossils we found are about 154 to 150 million years ago, and were between 59 and 72 feet long, weighing 31 to 51 tons.
That's a
Which
big.
is pretty big. Bo, I'm not sure you'd be able to fight this one. At the very least, not barehanded.
What about the baby version?
The baby version? Actually, that's a good question. Ash, can you look up for me how big a baby Brachiosaurus would have been?
Sure.
Okay.
How fucking strong are this motherfucker's bones if it weighs 30,000 tons?
30 tons.
30 tons. That's a lot of tons. That's what I was trying to say.
Extraordinarily,
Because gravity's against
heavy.
you at that point.
yeah.
That's why my knees
So
hurt.
the interesting thing about
Baby Brachiosaurus, just first thing on Google, says that Brachiosaurus and other sauropods usually weighed about 5 kilograms or 11 pounds when they hatched, about as heavy as a house cat.
oh my god,
Also, do I get a
Bo,
knife? Do I get a knife in these fights?
you could punt one of those.
Can I
for
have
sure.
a knife in these fights?
I'm
You
gonna
have to
give
make
you-
it yourself.
Okay. I play
yeah.
a lot of survival games to learn how to make a knife. I just need a couple twigs, a rock. We're good.
He's standing out there with a Xbox controller.
So its appearance in the movie, it's the first dinosaur that you see in the movie in full. It's coming out of the lake. They say it moves in herds, and it's eating from a tree, and it gets up on its back legs for a second, and it sings, and it's all very majestic. They serve as kind of like the relief from the stress and the tension after Alan Grant and the kids.
Like a mix between an elephant and a giraffe.
Yes, like a mix between an elephant and a giraffe. So the reason why they were able to get so big, Andrew, is not only was there a slightly higher concentration of oxygen in the air back then, but also their bones. It basically, what's the best way to put this? Their lungs were weird. They had weird lungs, and
How
what I
weird
mean by
were
this
they?
is that their bones all had air cavities in them, and the lungs were connected to the bones. They were able to more directly oxygenate the bones as well as take bigger breaths because the lungs were integrated in with the bones. And this is actually how birds breathe these
They breathe through their bones.
They breathe through their bones, which is bonkers. Yeah, so there it is compared to a giraffe and an elephant.
Those things probably have like horrible knee problems because like this thing is so much bigger than a giraffe and an elephant.
Probably.
It's like a giraffe and a half taller than an elephant.
Yeah. So Brachiosaurus as a genus is based on a specimen that was found in the year 1900 in the Grand River Valley of West Colorado, which was named Brachiosaurus altathorax, which means arm lizard. Brachiosaurus means arm lizard, and altathorax means tall chest. Like almost every single dinosaur find ever, it was incomplete, but big enough to get an idea of the size, and that it was a sauropod with all the long necks. They had found Diplodocus before, but they found 7 dorsal vertebrae, the sacrum, which is
Pelvis.
the pelvis, the first 2 caudal vertebrae, the left coracoid, the right humerus, ilium, and some dorsal ribs. But most importantly, they found the femur, and the femur was huge.
Which one's the coracoid again? Is that the chest?
I just wrote down coracoid. I don't remember what the coracoid is. You're the one who took osteology classes.
That's not in the human body.
Are you sure?
And so this was pretty incomplete, but just to get an idea of how big the skeleton and the bones were, once they packed up all of...
Sorry, I just learned something.
What?
Well, because it's
you want to share with the class?
It's like a scapular bone, but ours is part of our scapula, and so we have a coracoid process on our scapula.
Hey, real quick, if you're from Long Island and you try to say the word scapula, you say scapular. Carry on.
So it's like the wing
Scapular,
bit of a bird.
You know?
Scapula, Jason.
It's the scapular. Should I do the rest of this in the Long Island? So once I can't do
keep
it.
going.
Once
Don't.
No, you had it. You had it. Go.
Once they packed it up into all the bones, it took up 38 crates weighing 12,500 pounds.
Do it like you're telling it to your mom. Ma'am.
Ma'am.
Hey, Ma.
Hey, Ma.
Hey, Ma, you know,
dinosaur.
a few years later in Tanzania, they found really similar skeletons by a German expedition, and they identified it as Brachiosaurus bronchi. This one's actually had a skull, which had a high nasal arch. And over the years, enough specimens were found to make an entire skeleton.
He would have referred to the Germans as some kraut.
Yeah, but I don't want to say slurs on the podcast.
Is it a slur?
I don't think that's a slur. That's just food.
I don't know that I've ever heard that.
I'll host a straw poll and we'll see if kraut is a slur.
Okay.
Until then, it's not.
A high nasal arch. They got big nostrils.
Yeah. So if you look at the picture that Ash posted and the one in the movie, they have this high nasal arch, and they're very clearly based on the skull that was found with Brachiosaurus bronchi, which is the African version of it.
Wow, what a high nasal arch.
Yeah, so because it has this really distinctive, cool skull, and they don't know what the skull of the Brachiosaurus altathorax looks like at this point, most popular culture perceptions of Brachiosaurus is based on the bronchi species. So there's a couple of weird things about this skull in general as they find it. And one of them is that it has a really big space for the nasal cavity. There's like a big hole for the nasal cavity.
They sniffing?
Yeah, so they sniffing, and it makes it tough to tell where the nostrils are supposed to be. And so I was
just wondering, hey, where are the nostrils supposed to be?
Yeah, and so the early scientists studying it thought that the big hole where the nostrils go, or where the nasal cavity is where the nostrils were. And so they put the nostrils all the way at the top of that crest on the top of the head.
Like a proto whale, or like those weird crocodile things.
Yeah. And so like Andrew was wondering, the original thought was that these animals were too heavy to walk on land. And for a long time, a lot of paleontologists hypothesized that they lived in the water and walked along the surface of the bottom of lakes and stuff. And they had this nostril at the top of their head so that they could snorkel around.
Okay, I'm into that.
Yeah, well, it's also completely not true.
Oh.
It's just what people thought at the time.
In this age where people are dumber and there's a lot of misinformation going around, I think I can believe whatever I want. That's a water creature right there.
It makes sense that it would be. I'd be like, well, how something that big walk around? That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Surely it can't be.
Surely it can, because of here we go. Here's the picture.
Don't call me Shirley.
Then the other, so this is the nostrils at the top of the skull theory was long enough that it made it into Jurassic Park as a movie, right? Then the other thing that happens in the movie that is notable is that he says that they chew their food like cows. They move their mouth side to side to chew like cows. They couldn't have done that. That's not how their skull works. They couldn't have chewed side to side. And they don't have molars. All their teeth look like weird, fucky little pegs. And so all that they'd be able to do is rip food off of the trees and kind of cut it up a little. And then they swallow the food. And then actually, this is the fucking wildest part. Like birds do today, they had a gizzard. And in that gizzard, they had rocks. They would swallow rocks.
Ah.
And then as they walked around, the rocks would crush up the food in that gizzard. And they know like that dinosaurs had these gizzards because sometimes when the fossils are found like in situ, there'll just be a bunch of rocks in like the middle of the chest.
That's pretty cool. All dinosaurs are homodonts, right?
Yes.
They all have the same. They have one type of tooth. They have
that's what that means.
a tooth. Versus like us, we are heterodonts. We have different types of teeth that do different stuff.
Yeah. Another interesting thing about them is that their mandible is made up of 4 bones, whereas our mandible is made up of a single bone.
Wow. 4 bones.
Yeah. And what happened as mammals evolved is that those other 4 bones got turned into the 3 bones in our inner ear.
Oh my God. Isn't that neat?
So we're better at hearing.
So is this guy not good at hearing?
We're better at hearing lower frequencies than we are. But they can't pick out as many individual
just like
frequencies.
whales.
Yeah.
Can anyone name the 3
sea creature? Got it.
ossicles of the middle ear in our heads?
You know that. Come on.
Who are you asking, us or the audience? Because you know the answer if you're asking us.
You just setting us up for failure.
Yeah. You trying to embarrass us live in the podcast for not knowing that?
No, I was just curious.
Because you are succeeding, ma'am.
That's like you go to a toddler class, whatever those are called, kindergarten. Got it. And there you're like, hey, does anybody know what taxes are? And they're like, no.
Have you guys
That's
heard
And
Like,
they eat their
taxes?
sandwiches like Ron Swanson.
I also don't know what taxes are now.
Yeah.
No one should feel bad about things that they don't know as long as they're willing to learn. Everybody's got stuff they don't know.
Things that you don't know is other stuff about studies that have been done on these dinosaurs since the movie came out. So at the time, with a couple of exceptions, as far as we knew, pretty accurate, revolutionary even, that it was being shown not in a swamp. However,
Wow.
a couple of the things in the research that have been done since then, for example, the Brachiosaurus was too front heavy to be able to rear up on its hind legs like it does in the movie. Wouldn't have been able to do that. A study in 2011 by a guy named Heinrich Malleson determined that he couldn't. But other sauropods could have, which is interesting. Just ones with different weight distributions.
Different bow plans.
And they may not have been able to sing like they do in the movie. Though it is theorized that the big arch may have contained a resonating chamber, but I'm not sure how much evidence there actually is for that. And the last thing is that better imaging on the skull has determined that there's actually a really, really long tube, like basically really long nostrils, that meant that the nostril opening was in the normal place for an animal over their mouth at the front of the head.
Whoa, they just had really long nostrils that
And then they had
connected
really
to the
long
hole in
nostrils.
their head?
Yeah, that connect to the nasal thing right at the in the back, which is kind of bonkers. The wildest thing is that they have since found skulls for Brachiosaurus altithorax, the North American species, found out they're actually not that related. And this Brachiosaurus bronchi is no longer a Brachiosaurus. It is now called Giraffatitan.
Well, Giraffatitan.
Yeah.
That feels lazy.
It sounds like a boss. It's like a boss in a video game. Get ready to take
Oh
on
my
the
gosh,
Giraffatitan.
The rendering that Zach just sent has friggin' stripes on it.
Yeah, and so it's got stripes on it. I mean,
Got tiger
I don't think that any coloration has been found. This is just theoretical. But other studies have been found
It's
that
my best
it has
friend conversion evolution.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it.
The shape of the skull is a little fatter now. The neck is fatter, and the toes are a little bit more separated now. One thing that Jurassic Park liked to do, and we'll move on to the next one, Triceratops, is that it gave a lot of the non-theropods elephant feet when they, at the time we thought that they had elephant feet, but now we know that they didn't have elephant feet. So, for example, the Triceratops, and I'm going to be really fast about Triceratops because it's barely in the movie, is that the feet it has elephant feet, but now we know that they would have stood on their toes and had separate toes.
That's so funny. Big old animal walking around on his tippy toes.
I don't believe that. An animal that big walking around the toes? No.
I mean, their toes were gigantic, to be fair.
Toes.
Like, they were huge.
Toes.
They were big toes. And then the other main problem is that when it shows the really big pile of shit, as Jeff Goldblum calls it, that pile of poop is about twice as high as its butthole would have been. So how did it poop out that much?
It climbs to the top. It climbs to the top of the pile and then rears up.
That episode of South Park where Randy starts pooping and then it poops so much that it lifts him off the toilet. That's what's happening.
I think that's got to be what happens. A lot of other like research in Triceratops. Triceratops is one of the most commonly found dinosaurs in North America, which is fun.
They're so cute.
It also has the biggest skull of any animal that's been found.
Nice.
I think land animal. Pretty sure it's got to be land animal because like blue whales have big fucking skulls, but it has the biggest skull of any land animal. And the full name of Triceratops is Triceratops horridus, which I think is really mean.
Does that mean like horrible?
Yeah.
Oh, that's rude. They're not horrible. They're fantastic.
I don't know. Have you seen their poops? Pretty horrible.
Poops. They're pooping big. So before we talk about, when I said that Jurassic Park is very biased towards theropods, this is the part where we're moving on to theropods. There's just the two. There's the Brachiosaurus and the Triceratops are the only non-theropods. And so this is going to come up in all of the theropods that we talk about. So I'm just going to start talking about feathers right now. Bo, did you know that dinosaurs, a lot of them had feathers?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. So do you think that it's a really new idea or do you think it's an old idea?
Yeah, it was sometime within the past 15 years been established.
Okay. So the idea that dinosaurs were the ancestor of birds actually goes back to the 1860s.
Why would you fool me with a question like that when the answer's way later? See, there you just
setting us up for failure all the time.
But the past 15 years, it's
Zach,
you were right in a way.
Do you know my middle name?
Always handsome?
No, I'm setting you for
That's
failure.
2 words.
How would you not know my middle name?
I know your middle name.
It's theorized that people from the 1800s have known Bo's middle name since then, but you don't right now.
He does, though.
So in the early 1860s, a fossil was found of what was pretty clearly a bird with feathers and everything, but it also had too many digits, or the digits were too long, the fingers were too long. It had claws and it had teeth, and it didn't have a beak. So pretty clearly this was an ancient bird ancestor. This was found in Germany in 1860, and it ended up being called Archaeopteryx, which means ancient bird. Everyone was pretty clear that it was a transitional fossil. So it was something, or well, not everyone. Delete that, Andrew. Delete that I said that.
No.
A guy named Thomas Henry Huxley was an early proponent of evolution, in keeping in mind that Darwin published On the Origin of Species in 1859, and Archaeopteryx was found in 1863. His ideas didn't gain traction immediately, and there were people who were like, I mean, there's still people today like Bo who think that evolution isn't real. And I thought you were going to say something. I wanted to rile you up.
I'm not giving you this.
You got nothing.
I'm not giving you. You're not getting the satisfaction.
I think he fell asleep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This guy named Thomas Henry Huxley was a very early fanboy of Darwin's, and to the point where people called him Darwin's bulldog. And in 1868, 5 years after Archaeopteryx was found, he published a paper that was talking about how dinosaurs were the link between reptiles and birds. And he was the first guy to do this.
Way to go, Thomas!
Well, Darwin's bulldog, but Darwin famously had a beagle.
Hey, good joke.
Hey.
That's not a joke. He literally... Okay.
The ship that
he didn't own the beagle.
So funny, Andrew. I'm dying over
It
here.
was a
Good
ship
joke,
that
good joke. Good joke.
Oh, maybe he had a beagle. He also studied worms a lot and buried his cousin.
What? Don't gloss over that.
It's actually kind of funny.
Buried his
No, married his cousin.
Oh God, I thought you said buried.
And their issues, their issues conceiving children are what led him to theorize that inbreeding is bad.
He's like, maybe we shouldn't do this.
I shouldn't have done this, actually.
He started thinking about genetic drift.
He's like,
and,
what?
minimum
He's like, oh
population
no,
sizes.
Cyclops. That's his kid.
So this is the oldest idea of feathered dinosaurs that I could find was 1868, which is pretty interesting.
Pretty
That's
cool.
way earlier than I thought that it was going to be. But Richard Owen, who is the guy who coined the term dinosaur a couple years earlier, he was king shit of paleontology at the time and a little universally agreed to be kind of a bitch. He disagreed because he didn't like the idea of evolution. He thought that it was just a really early bird. He believed that the animals were divided into kinds created by God and that change only happened within those kinds. So there's like cats is a kind and dogs is a kind and birds is a kind. And he believed that Archaeopteryx was just the first kind of bird, like created by God in the Garden of Eden or whatever. It doesn't make any sense to me, but what do I know? So Richard Owen published this idea, this like rebuttal. And then another scientist wrote to Darwin about it. And he was like, I can't believe that Owen doesn't see that this was more than just an early bird. Look at the claws and the digits and all the other weirdness. And he says, he describes it as this sort of misbegotten bird creature, the dawn of an oncoming conception a la Darwin. And Darwin replied with another letter to him, quote, has God demented Owen as a punishment for his crimes that he should overlook such a point? And then Darwin later wrote in his memoirs that Owen hated the origin of species because, quote, not owing to any quarrel between us, but as far as I could judge out of jealousy at its success. So he's like, this guy's a hater.
He's a hater. He's jealous. And God made him stupid on purpose because he was mad at how dumb he was.
Yeah.
Idiot.
So Owen's depictions of dinosaurs were as slow and stupid and cold-blooded animals that weren't at all related to Archaeopteryx. He thought that they were very crocodilian. Movie. Yeah. And this prevailed until like the 60s because the paleontology kind of stalled after like 1900 because there was this thing called World War II that was followed by this thing called the Great Depression and then followed by this thing called World War II. Did I say World War II first?
Yes, you did.
World War I. So there was like world wars and a depression and kind of people were too busy doing things that weren't paleontology. But then in the 60s, a guy named John Ostrom found a dinosaur called Deinonychus, which is a very fast and very bird-like dinosaur, which had a terrible claw, which is what Deinonychus means.
Is that the one with the toe claw that's like real arched and...
Yes, the one with the nasty toe claw. This will be important later.
Velociraptor.
Yeah. And so this started a paleontological renaissance. And so if you
hey, remember there's these fucking weird lizards in the ground. Oh shit, I forgot about that. Let's dig more up.
Hey, Ma, remember the lizard? Get my spatula.
Hey, Ma, I think the lizard's a bit more like a bird. So the bird-like anatomy of Deinonychus was undeniable, especially the forelimbs, the similarity of the forelimbs between Deinonychus and Archaeopteryx. And so Ostrom's work around it and his research on other dinosaurs and the work like that of the people he mentored and his students kickstarted this new era of thinking about dinosaurs as quick, active, warm-blooded animals. And it includes people who become really big names later on, like Robert Bakker. So the morphological similarity to Archaeopteryx, which is known to be feathered in modern birds, which are numerous, kicked off theories that dinosaurs had feathers, but there's still debate over whether or not feathers evolved after Archaeopteryx separated from the dinosaurs or if feathers came first. So because no other specimens with feathers were found. But over the 90s, like after Jurassic Park came out, some trace fossils indicating feathers were found, like impressions around footprints from the early Jurassic. Like there'd be a foot and you'd be like, I don't know what dinosaur this is, but there's feathers around it, and the rock that it's from is from the early Jurassic. So we know that it was from before Archaeopteryx. Archaeopteryx was early Cretaceous.
Feathers are an ancestral dinosaur trait. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Then the earliest unequivocal evidence, the first unequivocal evidence that dinosaurs had feathers started coming out of China. And a lot of this has come out of China. China. Oh, why did I do that?
Why'd you do that? Ew.
I don't know.
I don't know. You know, like the meme where like they make it like really like clipping, like
yeah, they blow it
do
out.
that with when you just said that. I'm gonna do that right after I finish the sentence.
China. And so this was a small compsognathid dinosaur called Sinosauropteryx, which was found in 1996. It was about 3.5 feet long and 1 or 2 pounds. Just a little guy. And
what was that word
Compsognathus.
oh, there you go. Okay.
Compsognathus is, you may recognize it from the second Jurassic Park movie, The Lost World, as the little tiny ones that eat that little girl on the beach.
Oh my God. That's the thing that I remember most about that movie.
Delicious.
And then, yeah. And then about 15 years ago, so in like 2008, another study came out which identified the melanosomes in the feathers and determined what color it was too, the
So
Sinosauropteryx, which is pretty neat.
What color was it?
So what animal do you think its coloration was like? Do you think it was the same color as a red panda, a blue jay, or a cardinal? No, not cardinal, because I already said red panda.
Blue.
Or a lizard, a green lizard.
I'm guessing it's not the last one since you changed it.
Since I changed it.
Blue Jay. Yeah.
I think I already told this to you while I was researching it, Ash.
You
It
did.
was the same coloration as a red panda. So it's just a little feathered dinosaur.
Hold up.
Reddish brown.
You're telling Ash the answers before the quiz?
Well, just because I learned this and I was so excited and I sent the picture that I found.
Yeah, he couldn't keep it inside.
I couldn't keep it inside. Here
I'm calling the police.
Here is what it looked like.
It literally has the same exact color as a red panda with a little red and white striped tail, and I love it, and I want to feed it snacks.
Yeah. And this is what the fossil looked like. So if you look at the fossil, you can see running down the back and down the tail are those dark impressions, and that's all feathers.
Cool.
Yeah. And so these are early feathers. They don't have like, it was, there's a whole, I cannot get into, I'm already going long on feather structure. But for some of these animals, the feathers were mostly there for insulation or the coloration for sexual selection. And
Hey,
it
real
wasn't
quick.
until-
What is? Sorry, I have very important something to say here. You said feather structure.
Yes.
In the scientific community, it's called fucture. Please carry on.
Great. So now
I really want to
pretty-
know about the difference in the fuctures.
Yeah.
Tell me about that fucture.
I didn't write. I didn't write anything down.
Okay, well,
Sometimes
we'll have
it's
to
kinda like-
follow up. We'll have to follow up
Sometimes
on
it's
it.
kind of like quills. It wasn't until later that like they were actually flying. There were flying birds by the time the Cretaceous ended, and that's why they survived the extinction event. Is that there was already birds
They could
but-
fly.
that could fly, and like some of them could fly, like but Microraptor could fly. So 14 genera have been found with feathers. Pretty much all of them in China, ranging in size from Microraptor, which is not ranging in Microraptor was
It's
cute
okay, baby. It's okay.
and an early dromaeosaur. We'll be getting into dromaeosaurs later. But Microraptor was determined to have wings on its front and its arms and wings on its legs.
Double wings?
It had double wings and it flew like a biplane,
Ooh.
What?
which is cool.
That's pretty cool.
And they also looked at the keratin structures of its feathers with x-rays and determined that it was like a crow. It was black and iridescent.
Oh, that's rad. I love that.
Yeah.
Were
which is
these in
cool.
Jurassic Park?
No, these were not in Jurassic Park. I just wanted to bring them up because it's feathers. And so Microraptor is an ancestral dromaeosaur. And so because an early dromaeosaur was feathered, then it can be inferred that later ones were probably also feathered. It's very likely. So we'll be getting into dromaeosaurs in a second. I introduced the concept too early. I'm sorry.
Feathers on dinosaurs are just so exciting.
I just really like talking about dinosaurs. So basically, it is now accepted by paleontologists in the year of our Lord 2024 that many theropod dinosaurs, especially the small Cretaceous ones, may have had feathers at some point in their lives. And now the question is, which lineages of dinosaurs and what kind of feathers?
Pretty cool.
Pretty
What
cool.
kind of what kind of fucture do they have?
Yeah, what's the fuck sure about?
The fucture is generally speaking primitive and keratinous.
That's some old fucture.
Yeah, it's got old fucture. For the sake of completion, we mentioned Gallimimus. Gallimimus, I don't have anything to say about Gallimimus. I skipped Gallimimus because I don't have time to talk about Gallimimus. But Gallimimus is the one that runs away from the T-Rex when they like see the T-Rex in the daytime and it's chasing a herd of dinosaurs.
Who has what was it called?
Gallimimus.
Who has the Gallimimus?
Hey.
Talk about Gallimimus. I'll be here all week.
Yeah. So let's glide over
I
how
heard
they
the
would have been.
Gallimimus doesn't talk. It just makes body movements.
Ooh.
Because it's a mime.
Because of mime.
Because it's a mime.
Okay.
Oh.
Gallimimus.
Yeah, that's fine.
They crash into invisible walls a lot. That's how they get away from T-Rex, is they put up an invisible wall. And Gallimimus means chicken mimic, which is fun. Baka. So first I want to talk about Dilophosaurus. Do you remember which one Dilophosaurus is?
Nope. I know you talk about it all the time.
If I gave you a hint, it's the one that is maybe the least accurate, but it's fine. It is the one that kills.
It kills Newman.
It kills Newman. Yes.
With the neck rough
The neck thing,
situation.
It spits the poison at him. It's like,
Yeah, it goes chick, like those little lizards.
And he goes,
Yeah.
Newman.
I hate you so much.
Yeah. And
Yeah, fuck Newman.
Jerry Seinfeld
Fuck
standing behind
Newman.
him, and he's like, Newman.
Leave Jerry alone.
And Kramer's driving the car with the dinosaur in it, and he's like, whoa. It says ass man on the back of it.
My fuctures are poisonous.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna upload a picture which shows kind of the differences here. If you want to, what stands out?
I like the original
It doesn't
concept
have
better.
it doesn't have a neck ruff. Its head's a different color and it's much bigger.
It's much
And its
bigger.
arms are worse.
Yeah, the
So
arms
for
are a
those
little weird
listening
in
at
that
home,
picture.
you imagine the thing that killed Newman. Like, you've seen it before. This one, exponentially bigger, exponentially longer,
Taller than a man.
exponentially a different
Longer
color.
than a man.
It's huge, and it has a sort of V-shaped hat on its forehead, rather
Well,
than
the one in the
Yeah.
movie has it too.
Yeah.
No neck ruff.
So
no
So
like old timey judge neck ruffles though.
And I can't overstate how weird its arms are.
yeah, it's got some kind of weird arms. I found another picture where the arms are a little nicer looking. Dilophosaurus is maybe the only case of a dinosaur in this movie that is smaller in the movie than it was in real life. And I think that's probably so that they could make it big enough to fit in the Jeep with Newman when it's hacking him to shreds. But so this was
The
basically...
second rendering you sent is feathered.
Yeah. So
It kind of looks like a turkey, but really nasty.
really big and really nasty. So Dilophosaurus was the big deal, the big man on campus in North America in the early Jurassic.
Hey, Jurassic animal in Jurassic Park, even though it looks wrong.
Hey, so there's only been a few specimens found, but there's been a lot of, it's got kind of a unique foot, and its footprints show up all over the place. It's actually the state fossil of Connecticut, because there's fossilized Dilophosaurid footprints in Connecticut. And there's this place, Dinosaur State Park, that I used to go to as a kid as well. It's pretty cool. But
Wow.
it's like, you can't actually say that it's a Dilophosaur because you don't know. It's just the foot that looks like it. So they just say Dilophosaurid. But anyway, they were about 23 feet long and weighed 880 pounds, which is a little lithe, but muscular. Not as big as like a sauropod, but you don't want to like come across it at night, right?
I don't want to come across it during the daytime
Now, to be fair,
Yeah, I don't
to
want
be
to come
fair
across
to the
this at
movie-
all.
at all.
yeah. To be fair to the movie, they do have Nedry mention, they say you're not as big as your brothers or your cousins or whatever. But I don't know, is he referring to the Rex, or are there other like regular sized Dilophosauruses somewhere on the island? I don't know. But they had cool fucking
Deep
crests on the
world
head.
building there from Mr. Michael Crichton.
Yeah. And it's also got a fun notch in its jaw, which could have been for, if you look like the top, not all of the ones that have been found have this notch in the jaw, which I really don't know a lot about it. And I don't think anybody knows a lot about it. It's theorized that it either had a very specialized diet or it
It's
was for like keeping prey.
hypothesized.
Yes, hypothesized. Sorry. That is my main failure as a person, is constantly misusing the word theory. So it was first discovered in the 40s with 3 skeletons in Arizona. It was a guy named Arizona. Charles M. Camp was led to the site by Navajo guides who had found the bones a few years earlier. He found 3 skeletons in various states of preservation, but at the time, these were among the best preserved theropod skeletons. The important thing is that none of them that they found had they didn't recognize the crest in any of them. And one skull was missing the back of it, one skull was missing the front of it, and another one was just kind of crushed and mashed. 10 years later, the Stephen Wells, who was part of the group who found them, classified them as Megalosaurus weatherilii because it was close to the body proportions of Megalosaurus. And at the time, Megalosaurus was kind of a wastebasket taxon. Ash, do you want to explain the concept of a wastebasket taxon?
When you find stuff and it kind of looks like one thing, but also kind of looks like another thing, and you're not sure where to put it, you just kind of shove it all in the junk drawer and are like, yeah, it's just that.
Yeah, so that was what Megalosaurus was in the 40s in paleontology. But
it's just a hodgepodge of shit.
Yeah, they were like, anything that we can, if we can't figure it out, let's just say it's a Megalosaurus until we can figure it out.
And the characteristics of Megalosaurus are that they're undefined. And it's like, well, that's nothing, but okay.
You can't call that a saurus then. It's just a pile of bones.
So they named it Megalosaurus weatherilii after a guy named John Wetherill, who was a Navajo counselor that they worked with. And they all liked him. They thought he was a cool guy.
So they named him after nothing? That's fucked up.
Named after a guy.
Yeah, they named it after a guy. What do you mean nothing? A Navajo counselor.
They're like, hey, here's a fully formed dinosaur that we found. Let's name it after this guy. And there's a pile of bones over there. Let's name it after that guy. That's disrespectful.
There were 3 of the best preserved theropods. They just didn't know what it was yet. And so Wells went back to the site in 1964. And he found a 4th skeleton about a quarter mile away from where they found the first 2. This one was clearly the same species, but it was a lot larger, and it was really recognizable, the 2 cool crests. Well, there was one crest, and then there was a hole where the other one should be, but you could tell that it was supposed to be there. It was probably removed by a scavenger before it got fossilized. And so then they re-examined the first specimens and found that the crushed skull had the bases of the 2 crests.
They were babies?
The other 2 were juveniles that hadn't developed the crests yet.
They were just little babies.
And one thing that I liked from reading his publication on it is that he said the crests were as expected as finding, quote, wings on a worm, which is fun. So he and an assistant corrected the existing mounts of them and rechristened it Dilophosaurus weatherilii. And Dilophosaurus means double-lobed lizard, but double crested. They're kind of lobes. And so this is basically where the knowledge was when it came to 1993. It was these are really clear specimens, but they still didn't know a ton about it. But even based on that knowledge,
they just figured out it was its own thing.
Yeah, but even based on that knowledge, the Jurassic Park version is still pretty weird because it looks fine, but it's too small. But the frill and it spits venom. These are completely out of nowhere, and they just kind of added it for funsies.
It's because venom is exciting. It engages the audience.
I fully understand that it's cool as shit. It's so cool, but it's not real.
That's something they couldn't do on Seinfeld. They're like, how do we get Newman off the show? His only weakness is venom. And Jerry Seinfeld didn't have any. Couldn't afford it. It's expensive being a comic in New York,
And that's why he made B movies so that he could make a fantasy about having venom.
Yeah, and by then it was too late. Seinfeld had already been canceled.
He waited so long for it, from Seinfeld to B-movie to finally get Newman.
No, the frill is based on frilled lizards, and with all of these dinosaurs, you can just write off the inaccuracies as they fucked around with the genes, and this is what they got, right? Because they're making cloned dinosaurs.
Yeah, they threw in lizard genes in there.
Genes.
They did fucking
whatever. They put frog genes in there. Yeah. So whatever, it's fine. But that's not what this podcast is about. This podcast is about how frilled lizards have marks on the bones from the muscles where the frills connect. And so we would have known if they had this. Then the venom, all of the extant living animals that spit venom, they do it by having hollow teeth. And they pressurize the venom with muscles and squirt it out of their teeth, like the spitting cobras.
Yeah.
So we would have been able to tell that as well. Now, it could have a completely different method for making venom, but we probably would have been able to find imprints of the venom making glands if I was just to be a fun killing nonsense man. Also, the wrists are wrong. Every single one of the theropods in Jurassic Park, the wrists are facing the wrong direction.
Oh, God, I hate it. Now I can never watch it. Ruin the movie for me. Good.
You know that I care about wrists way too much.
It's important. They're pronated, and they couldn't pronate their wrists. They could
Andrew sends me photos of wrists going, look what's wrong with this wrist.
It's always
They show them doing the bye bye bye. No, what is it? There's an NSYNC dance where they put their wrists like that. I don't remember.
Ain't no lie, baby. Bye bye bye.
Oh, that's the no strings attached one, right? Oh yeah, it was bye bye bye. You're right.
Bye 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 is when they do like the you're speaking with your mouth with your hand.
Yeah, they go bye bye bye. Yeah.
The puppet thing was.
It was for the No Strings Attached album.
Yeah.
That was the one that my sister had. The one that
That's
I listened to a
Backstreet
lot.
Boys.
Oh.
Was it Backstreet Boys?
You show some fucking respect. No, you were just singing the Backstreet
NSYNC
Boys.
was the one with the puppetry. But they were all puppets because they left their old label and they were
Hey, you guys stick with your dinosaurs and leave the boy bands to me.
Well,
okay,
yeah. So
calm down.
which is the one that does the dance with their wrist that looks like the dinosaurs?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what these wrists look like.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, you keep talking about these wrists.
Talking about these wrists. I've never seen them.
You know what I'm talking about? It's the way that the dinosaurs have their wrists, where their wrists are pointing down. There's a boy band that does a dance where they do that. They put their hands like that, and then they move over, and then they put their hands like that, and they move over. It's fine.
You mean like a Frankenstein looking thing? Like you put your hands in front of you and you be like you put your hands down?
What was the?
It's not important. It's fine.
You mean from the Backstreet Boys song and music video for Backstreet's Back?
Oh, is it Backstreet's Back? Okay, yeah, it might be.
Come on. Get on my level.
I'm not on your level.
Get on my level.
Well, get ready for the boy band podcast. We're going to be coming soon.
I would love that.
No, it's just me going to be singing them, and you guys get to be quiet.
I'll sing harmony.
Okay, so Ash gets to sing harmony, and Zach can be like,
it was bye bye bye. It was bye bye bye. I'm looking at the music video right now. They are doing that dance in the bye 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 video.
You think me and Zach can be quiet? That's the thing. That's.
I thought it was bye bye bye.
I still have not seen these wrists that you guys are talking about, so I cannot give you a straight answer.
I just posted a picture of the album.
You posted a picture
cover.
of NSYNC, not of the dinosaurs that we have been asking about. What do the dinosaurs' wrists look like?
Oh,
okay, well, here's a picture of NSYNC. That doesn't make any sense.
The picture has already been sent. It's the one with the two dinosaurs next to each other that's showing them. The one from the movie.
As Backstreet Boys.
Their hands are facing down.
That's Backstreet
Like we were talking
Boys.
about because their hands are wrong.
Oh, the Mr. Burns wrists.
Yeah, it's got the Mr. Burns wrists. Yeah, so they couldn't do Mr. Burns wrists. They could only hold their wrists like they were about to start clapping. Oh, shit. Okay, Andrew just posted a gif of them doing the rock your body thing at the end of This Is the End. And this whole thing has been blown up. We're going to have to do a whole new podcast episode that's just about this conspiracy theory.
Do they do it in both bands? Oh my gosh. Okay, this is not about dinosaurs at all. What do they know about this dinosaur in 2024, Zach?
Okay, so what's cool about this one is they've been able to reconstruct the crests a little bit better, but there still has been no specimen found that has the upper edge of the crests, so we don't know how tall they could have been. They could have been really tall, and they were covered in keratin. Could have been anything. One of the pictures that I posted is by R.J. Palmer, and he's hypothesized that the crests are like kind of even going out a bit more with the keratin, which is pretty interesting. Could have been brightly colored. It's great. But what I wanted to talk about is that a study in 2015 re-examined the first Dilophosaurus skeleton, the holotype, and figured out that it has more pathologies than any other theropod dinosaur that's been found. So it had more injuries and deformities and signs of disease. It had a really, really tough life. Let's just have a listen to this. The left radius is fractured and healed at an angle, so that the radius is bent 20 degrees towards the ulna. So
Oof.
I'm just going to say them and Ash, you explain them.
Right.
Explain them in layman's terms.
It's the forearm. The two forearm bones are pointing towards each other. That's not supposed to happen. They're supposed to be right next to each other.
There's a healed fracture on the left scapula, which is the shoulder blade bone, probably from the same incident that fractured the humerus. The left ulna has a large depression and bone loss. That was the result of a bone infection after a puncture wound.
Probably when it got fractured and the other one stabbed into it.
Mm-hmm. The left thumb had a fibrocess, which is an abscess, which is basically the same thing as an abscess. But reptiles and birds don't produce pus the same way that mammals do, so it's technically not an abscess, but it's
weird.
the same thing. Which was eventually healed.
What's in it if not pus?
bird pus, which is different.
Oh, okay.
Which was eventually healed, but it left 3 distinct cavities. And this is probably from being kicked by prey or another Dilophosaurus, which is, it's a puncture, but it's not a bite because it's not a mouth. It's then the right humerus has a hypertorsion, means that it's twisted, which may have resulted from over-reliance on the right arm after the injury to its left arm.
Oh,
meaning
poor
that
thing.
the left arm injury probably happened a long time before it died. Then the right radius has 3 bony tumors, which may or may not have been osteosarcoma, cancer. Not diagnosed, but maybe cancer. And then for an indeterminate reason, the 3rd finger of the right hand was permanently flexed. So it was permanently flexed in.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And so the paper
Limping
on
around,
this,
poor thing.
the paper on this is called Record-Breaking Pain, the largest number and variety of forelimb bone maladies in a theropod dinosaur.
Oh, so sad.
Yeah. So next, let's talk about Velociraptor. Classic. Got the Mr. Burns wrists right here. And post, this is what it is in Jurassic Park. You guys know that one.
Backstreet Boys wrist. Yeah.
Yeah, with the Mr. Burns wrists.
Yeah, Backstreet Boys.
Mr.
Backstreet
Burns.
Boys.
So
Mr. Burns.
this is a fun one because the actual Velociraptor, like this.
So small, only comes up to your thigh.
Oh, I can fight that.
Yeah. This was the one. This is the one where I was like, I think Bo could actually fight this. You just give it a good kick, you know?
Yeah, I hear you.
So Velociraptor is Velociraptor mongoliensis. So already this should be a hint to anybody who's a big fan of the movie and has seen it as many times as I have. The mongoliensis is the first hint that the Velociraptors in the movie are not actual Velociraptors, because the movie starts off with a title card saying Badlands of Montana, and they are digging up what they say is a Velociraptor skeleton. Already, strike one.
No velociraptors
in North America.
in Montana.
And there's no capybaras in Indiana
And there's
Jones either.
no crying in baseball. Oh, kookaburras.
Kookaburra. So Velociraptors are from Asia. That's why it's Velociraptor mongoliensis. And they're, you know, they go up to your knees. They're like turkey sized. And so this is not the same animal. But before you're like, oh, Zach, you're fucking killing all the fun because it's like, it would be really cool if that animal actually existed. Well, let me tell you that the one that it was actually based on.
Fuck
It was,
you.
what it was actually based on is Deinonychus. So the Deinonychus that we talked about that was found in 1960s and revolutionized paleontology. So
Wow.
this is a drawing by Backer in 1969 of the
Big
first
steppin'.
the first Deinonychus. Yeah, it's big stepping.
This is a lot
It's
of
got the-
photos for an audio podcast for this one. We're gonna have to
Well,
somehow find those ways.
describe it for the
Bo,
for the
why don't you
audience.
describe this one
It
for us?
looks. Oh,
Yo, it's Mr. Big Stepper going forward. He's like a
I don't know why I
lizard.
asked you to do this.
And
it
he's-
looks exactly like the Velociraptor from Jurassic Park, but it's not a Velociraptor. Like, it looks exactly the same.
and he's got
Its
Mr.
head looks a
Burns
little
hands.
bit like a penis. It has Mr. Burn hands, and it is taking the largest step I've ever seen with its right leg fully tucked under its body and its left leg fully extended behind it. And it's got its nasty little toe claws fully intact.
This is the drawing that revolutionized paleontology in the 1960s, which is
Is
pretty
it just
fun.
me, or is the vein on its head look just a little bit chody?
The neck looks very foreskinny.
Yeah.
So then Dilophosaurus is still smaller than the Velociraptors in the movie. And if you look at their heads, the Velociraptor in the movie, its head is a little too boxy. But serendipity happened. And in 1993, as the movie was in post-production, a dinosaur was described from fossils found in 1991. It was called Utahraptor. And it was exactly the same like size as the raptors in the movie. But
Whoa.
it was found during post-production of the movie, which is crazy. The head is a little more narrow, but other than that, it was the same size. It's really scary. It's pretty cool.
That's super
I'll just
scary. I don't
imagine
want to
that
be near that.
Yeah, so like the Velociraptors in the movie were pretty much real. They were just,
Not Velociraptors.
not Velociraptors. So that's fun.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, let's see.
Now, these Utah Raptors would have had feathers.
Yes. So as we were discussing, velociraptors are a dromaeosaur. So Velociraptor, Deinonychus, and Utahraptor, they're all related, and they're all dromaeosaurs. They are all descendants of the Microraptor. They're all, I don't want to say descendants, but they're all dromaeosaurs. And the Microraptor is from earlier, and it has the feathers. So from that,
what color were its feathers?
Well, so these ones, the feathering is extremely likely, but we have not found them with feathers.
What color do you think they were?
Probably something camouflagey, maybe.
That's boring.
Yeah. But the based on its kind of like ancestors and how we know other dromaeosaurs were feathered, they had feathering on their entire bodies, except for maybe like a bare snout so that they could like dig into prey and not have like blood and guts all up
Like
in
a
their
turkey.
feathers. Like a vulture.
Like a vulture.
And then the feathers kind of spread out towards the tip of their tail, and they would use it as like a rudder for balance. And
That's
they would
so cute.
also
Looks like a little
have
fan.
they also had like wings, like almost looking like wings on their arms. They wouldn't have been able to fly, but there's a really cool scene in the Prehistoric Planet documentary where a velociraptor is like jumping down from a rock, and it uses its feathers to kind of like guide
To
its
glide.
fall, which is really interesting.
I love that this whole group of dinosaurs it just has a nasty toe.
Yeah, and they all have the nasty toe. So I don't think anybody's figured out where the toe comes from or like which dinosaur was the first one to have the toe, but they all have this like really nasty toe.
You think they
it's
do a lot of
mentioned-
kicking with that toe?
They do a shitload of kicking with that toe. I tell you that much.
Mhm.
The movie
do some
talks about how they would have used it to slice your belly open, but it's not sharp in that way. The point of it's very sharp, but the like body of it wasn't that sharp. And so instead what it was is it would like get it in between your ribs, and then you wouldn't be able to get out of its
Oh
grasp.
no. It hooks you.
It hooks you. So it hooks you real bad.
I got the toe hook.
The one of the coolest fossils that's ever been found is a fossil of a velociraptor fighting a protoceratops, which is kind of like a little tiny version of a triceratops. And so it was found in Asia, I think in China. And it basically has the two of them kind of locked forever in combat as they were buried in like a sandstorm or like a dune collapse or something like that. And they were both like instantly killed while they were in the middle of fighting. And it shows the velociraptor with its toe claw hooked into the ribs of the protoceratops.
So it just like jumps on you, tries to hook you, and then rips you apart.
Pretty much.
What's in the mouth of the fossil? Looks like there's something in the Triceratops's mouth.
That's the velociraptor's arm.
Oh, it's its other arm. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, so
This
they
is
were
so
straight
dynamic.
up locked in mortal combat when they died. And there's another one. So another thing that's like a big important characteristic of the velociraptors in the movie is that they were pack hunters. There's not really any evidence that they were pack hunters. So if dinosaurs were
So
like
Chris Pratt is full of
gregarious-
shit, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And so if dinosaurs were like gregarious, what that means is that usually there will be a few instances where the fossils are found with like multiple individuals in a group, like they were all together and they like died in a flash flood or something. But you don't really get that with the raptors. There's one evidence kind of similar to this one of a Tenontosaurus, which is kind of like a prey animal, kind of like a big old cow, which has 3 or 4 Deinonychus skeletons around it. But there's no evidence that means that they had like pack tactics, and it could have just been like a bunch of them mobbing the same animal to eat it. You know, they're like not like wolves.
Yeah, or like one of them killed it and the other two came around trying to get some scraps.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last thing that I'll say about them is that they had a relatively high, like one of the highest, the second highest, I think, encephalization quotient of the dinosaurs. Ash, do you want to explain to Bo and Andrew what encephalization quotient
We've talked
means?
about encephalization before on this podcast. It's brain to body size ratio. So if they have a
I
high
beat you to it.
encephalization
Oh.
quotient. Oh, then if
Gonna say-
they have a high encephalization quotient, take it, Bo.
Yeah, and finish it, Ash.
That means that their brains were pretty large in relation to their body, which could potentially indicate higher intelligence.
Yeah. So
Because that's what it means in apes.
yeah. So the dromaeosaurs have an average encephalization quotient of 5.8. And for reference, a human is 7.8 and a German Shepherd is 3.1.
I don't think that you can do one-to-one comparisons on
No, so the thing is that
quotients.
the dinosaur brains were, 65 million years older
How smooth
than
were they?
pretty smooth. So one of the things that I'll talk about when we talk about the T-Rex next is that CAT scanning. They've done CAT scans on these dinosaur skulls to determine the shape of the brain, and you can like make a cast of it, a 3D model of the brain. Yeah,
Endocasts.
And so mostly they're pretty smooth, but they have really highly developed sensory sectors. So their theory is that a velociraptor was probably about as smart as a big cat, but it had really, really well developed senses.
Cool.
So it was really good at smelling and hearing and seeing.
Me too.
Yeah.
What about touching, though?
You're so good at smelling stuff, Bo.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big believer in smelting and delting it.
You'll smell a burrito from 3 blocks away.
That seems kind of racist.
That was racist. That was immediately racist.
Racist.
First thing he chooses is Hispanic food.
Because we ate burritos together.
I didn't eat burrito with you.
You didn't?
I was the one who purchased the burritos.
He stood next to us while we 3 ate burritos.
Yeah. He just immediately thought that you did it because you came in and then he just started hearing ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba, and he's eating the burrito and he's like, yeah, Bo.
Okay,
You're
Bo
like,
could smell
look at this burrito,
a pie.
Bo. Wish you could have it, huh?
Because people in
Could smell a
California eat
pie
burritos
from
for every
3
meal
miles
and
away.
never eat anything else.
And then he levitates and floats over to it like a cartoon character.
He's trying to dig himself out of a hole. This is a racist hole he put himself in.
He called you Speedy Gonzalez.
Oh, no.
That guy's American treasure. Well, not American treasure, Mexican treasure.
So, yeah, Velociraptor in the movie. It's not a Velociraptor. It's a Utah Raptor. But they didn't know that Utah Raptor existed at the time. So it's a Deinonychus. But also Michael Crichton said that he modeled it after Deinonychus when he was writing the book. But he thought that Deinonychus was a stupid name, so he called it Velociraptor instead.
Come on, Michael.
Michael.
Yeah. Michael.
So I don't trust Michaels.
Mike, get it together.
Worst
And,
store. The worst.
The more recent imaging of Velociraptor ulnas has determined that they had little spots where quills would have connected, like little bumps where.
So
that's how we
sorry,
know
what
that
was it
they're
again? Their
feathers.
fuxture was more quill-like.
Yeah, their fuxture was not like quill is just like the point of the feather that connects.
I'll fuck you with that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay, let's move on to the last dinosaur, the Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Is he from Sweden?
It's the super classic
the
Cretaceous.
classic.
Super classic Cretaceous super predator. You know her, you love her. She fucks shit up and doesn't give a fuck about your feelings. It's Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Wait, you said Tyrannosaurus, like they're from like
Tyrannosaurus.
Switzerland.
The Tyrannosaurus Rex, yes.
I was just saying
So
it in a
IKEA.
weird way to keep people
IKEA?
listening. IKEA. So Tyrannosaurus. You know Tyrannosaurus, right?
Heck
no,
yeah.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him?
No.
Oh my god. So I'll put a picture so that everyone knows who we're talking about, which is great for an audio podcast, I know. But I've been listening to more podcasts and they do refer to pictures on the podcast. So we're not the only ones who do it, you know? It's fine.
It's fine. The big scary one that attacks them
The
in
big
the
scary
car,
one in
and
the
then
movie.
it goes, bruh.
So T-Rex is pretty infamous for being a big old guy, big old person. Probably the biggest theropod dinosaur on average. Clocked in around 42 feet long and 7 or 8 tons for the typical adult.
I have a big head and little arms.
Yeah, little arms, but extremely strong little arms. They could each like bench like 500 pounds or something like that.
Some pretty strong baby arms.
But based
Yeah.
on their size, that's not great.
Yeah, right though.
They weigh, what'd you say, 7 tons, and they can only pick up
Yeah.
500 pounds? That's kind of bitchy.
What's the bro quotient for that?
Let's see.
Biceps to
So-
body size.
Well,
Hey,
you wish you
someone
could
do
do
the math.
500 pound bicep, girl.
Someone do the math of like a normal like 200-pound man equivalent to lifting 500 pounds of this 7,000-pound thing.
What percent of 7,000 is 500?
So well, it's 7,000 tons. So
Oh,
or 700 tons or whatever. It was 7 tons. So 7 times. Yeah. You do the math. You're the math people.
Yeah,
I'm not a math person. I'm awful at math.
Listener, do some math.
We'll call our friend Matt, who's very, very good at math, and then we'll come back to you with the answer.
So T-Rex may have. It's pretty likely that it is maybe the biggest land carnivore at any time, like on the planet, which is pretty neat. There's I think Giganotosaurus was a little bit longer, but it wasn't as tall. It's close.
Giganotosaurus.
Yeah. It looks like Gigantosaurus, but it's not called Gigantosaurus. It's called Giganotosaurus. There's the extra O in there. It's stupid. I hate it.
That's from Godzilla.
Well, Godzilla is just a mutated Godzillasaurus. It's fine. So it was one of the last dinosaurs, and in that I mean that it was one of the crop that watched the asteroid collide with the planet and ruin their good time.
That's rough, buddy.
And which means that it was also in the crop of Cretaceous dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. It lived in North America, specifically in Western North America, which was at the time the island continent of Laramidia, which is fun. There was an inland sea in North America, which is why they find a lot of aquatic fossils in the middle of the country, which is fun.
Pretty cool.
And a lot of the Tyrannosaur fossils come out of Montana and Wyoming, which was an area called Hell Creek at the time. And Hell Creek was super cool. Hell Creek was awesome. There was Tyrannosaurs, there was Triceratops, there was Edmontosaurus.
There was metal bands.
Yeah, there was all sorts of cool stuff there. And they preyed on everything that they could find.
Is that where Big Sue was found, I assume?
Sue was found in Sue's from Hell Creek.
Noise. Sue is the biggest, the oldest Tyrannosaur.
The most complete.
But also like the oldest, like living, like it lived to be very old.
I think there was one found, that one since recently that's found to be older. Why, Andrew, why'd you say pause?
7 tons is 15,000 pounds roughly.
That's a lot of pounds.
So divided by 500 is 30. So we take 30 from an average 200-pound man, and that guy is lifting 6 pounds per arm. Not great.
So it's like one of those old women who's like power walking while curling those like 6-pound weights.
But that's max. So he's got tree trunk legs and his core is fucking solid, but he can't lift up anything.
Every
over 12
day
pounds.
is leg day.
Anything over 12 pounds, he's done. He can't go bowling.
Oh, poor
He can pull
Poor
with
guy.
a 6-pound ball.
Nobody does that.
A little
Those are
girl
for
ball.
babies.
He can get a
He would
little girl
embarrass
hot
himself in
pink.
front of Sydney, the girl he's trying to date for the longest time.
Also, they only have 2 fingers and there's 3 holes in a bowling ball.
Oh, they wouldn't be able to bowl.
They can't bowl.
Well, this guy in
Confirmed.
theory has 5 fingers, but we could take away some of his fingers if we want to fuck him up a little bit.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the dinosaur going bowling, and that was a much more exciting prospect to me.
No, they would have to use they wouldn't fit in the door.
Yeah, outdoor bowling alley.
Hmm.
And then they eat everybody.
And yeah,
So Tyrannosaurus was first found in 1900 in Wyoming. A guy named Barnum Brown, who was the assistant curator of the American Museum of
Barnum
Natural
Brown?
History, which is a great name. Like that's a real 1900s fossil hunter name, you know? And I'm Barnum Brown. I'm Barnum Brown. I'm going to Wyoming. I'm going to dig up some dinosaurs. I work at the American Museum of Natural
going to
History.
Wyoming. I don't know where it is either.
But I hear
So
they
he
got
found-
dinos.
I wonder if they got glizzies.
He found a partial skeleton of a big scary theropod in eastern Wyoming, and then found another in the Hell Creek Formation in 1902. The president of the American Museum of Natural History was a guy named Henry Osborn. Later, in the 1920s, he named the Velociraptor. And
That's
because he's the
Harry
president,
Osborn's
he got to
dad.
name this one.
Spider-Man reference.
The Green Goblin?
Nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You're right. Henry no, that's Norman Osborn.
And that's Ozzy's grandpa.
Okay. So he was
I'm gonna keep
also,
going.
fun fact, co-founder of the American Eugenics Society. So this is your guy. So he named the 1900 specimen Dynamosaurus imperiosus and the 1902 specimen Tyrannosaurus rex. And then in 1906, he realized that they were the same species and kept the name Tyrannosaurus rex. because he thought it was
Tyrannosaurus Rex
better.
is much better.
Yeah, but for a while, we could have Dynamosaurus imperiosus, which is
Nah,
kind of cool.
It's just too wordy.
Dinosaurus sounds like a dinosaur that Homer Simpson made up.
It's a Dinosaurus.
Oh my God, you're right. Bo just posted what I assume is an AI generated image of a Tyrannosaur in a bowling alley.
It looks like a toy.
The feet
It looks like
are
kind of like a
horrendous.
blow up doll too.
It has weird tentacle feet. That actually kind of look like the feet of the alien in No One Will Save You.
It
which
really
is fun.
does.
But 1 point for
It
this
also
horrible
kind of
AI
looks like
image.
it has to pee.
The wrists are in the correct direction.
Kinda.
And they can't lift shit.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't have been able to bowl anyway because it can't pronate its wrists.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Who invited them? That's very, very offensive.
Yeah. The early depictions and reconstructions of Tyrannosaurus Rex were done in the classic 45-degree tail dragging, lumbering ass depiction that was the style at the time. As was the style at the time.
We're gonna do a Simpsons. We're gonna do a Simpsons podcast soon, aren't we?
Yeah, we gotta do a Simpsons podcast.
I'll do
And
it.
so
If we do a Simpsons podcast, it's just going to be Bo telling us about his favorite episodes like he would a girl he's trying
And
to
then
impress.
Zach says quotes from the episode, and then Bo says
Yeah.
quotes to the quotes, and then it's just Zach and Bo quoting Simpsons for an hour.
Yeah.
And you guys wouldn't like that? I don't understand.
yeah. So the early depictions of Tyrannosaurus Rex, it was standing in kind of like a kangaroo pose with the tail dragging. And they were like, oh, this is a dumb idiot dinosaur. It is also big and scary, but also is a dumb idiot. This is a very classic one by Charles Knight, who is a good paleo artist.
It
but-
looks like Godzilla.
Yeah, and so Godzilla was thought to be like it was
Tail
a dinosaur.
dragging,
And,
standing mostly upright.
yeah, influenced by thoughts at the time of dinosaurs. You can't hold it against them. It's just what they thought it looked like.
Very small chesticles.
Yeah, very small. It suffers a bit from the shrink wrapping, which is a trope in paleo art that people are trying to get away from now, which is basically just like putting skin
on
over
the
the
bones.
skeleton so
Yeah.
you can like see what all the bone structures and not really accounting for like muscles and body fat and stuff like that. And so this like 45-degree reconstruction is kind of the result of lasting influence from a drawing of a hadrosaur by a guy named Joseph Leidy in 1865. But anyway, in the 60s, when there's this dinosaur renaissance kicked off by the Deinonychus discovery, and people started digging in Hell Creek again, and pretty quickly they found a shitload of T-Rexes. And now there are, according to an article I found, 32 well-preserved post-juvenile T-Rexes in public museums today. And I think there's a little over 50 specimens of T-Rex, and a lot more that are just like a bone here or there.
The bits and
making it-
bulbs.
Yeah, making it one of the better represented dinos in the fossil record. And if that doesn't seem like a lot, it is a lot. The fossil there's a shitload of holes in the fossil record just because fossilization is a very rare thing to occur. For fossilization to happen, basically something needs to. We've talked about fossils before. We have to have talked about how fossils happen before, but something needs to basically be buried in mud or some sediment before it has the chance to decompose entirely, and then over millions of years, the minerals from the surrounding rock will leach into the bone and replace the bone with rock. Fossils are rock. It's not very common for that to happen. So a lot of
There's so many
dinosaurs-
species that are just known from one partial fossil.
Yeah.
And they could be other things, but like you don't know because you don't have more of the fossils.
The thing that I'm trying to get at is that it's weird that we have so many fossils of a super predator. The idea is that an ecosystem can only handle so many predators, right? Like there's an animal.
There's only so much prey out there.
There's only so much prey to go around. And if there's more than one species of predator, then there's a lot of competition between them. And so each one has a comparatively small population. So the fact that we have so many T-Rexes means it's hypothesized that they were such a good predator that they outcompeted all other predators in the area, and all predator niches were filled by various ages of T-Rex. So
That's
like the
super
baby
cool.
ones were the ones who were like chasing after the little lizards who would like hide in holes, and the big ones were the ones who were going after the triceratopses and the edmontosauruses, and like the medium-sized ones were killing crocodiles or whatever.
That's pretty rad. I like that a lot.
And it's pretty kind of crazy. So then all of these new skeletons that came out of Hell Creek led to a reevaluation of the walking position, and this is when people realized that the tail was there to balance the front while it was standing horizontally. And so the classic horizontal position was figured out, but it didn't really take hold in public consciousness because everyone kept this old idea of the dragging tail T-Rex in their minds from various movies. And Jurassic Park was one of the first to actually show a horizontal Rex, which is crazy that it was like 25 years after it was first theorized, but it's fine. And by this point, it's not even in question that it stood like this a little bit, because like they've looked at the pelvises, they know that this is how the pelvis works. It wouldn't have been able to stand like that, and they would have stiffened muscle fibers in their tail to keep it rigid. And also Velociraptor had those as well. I didn't mention that.
Oh, they couldn't wag their tails like happy puppies?
No, they couldn't wag their tails like happy puppies, and they actually do that a lot in the movie. They like wiggle their tails like hunting cats.
Hey,
they
no
wouldn't have been able to do that. Then the most complete one, and one of the most complete dinosaurs ever found, was Sue. So an amateur paleontologist named Sue Hendrickson found it in 1990 in Hell Creek.
It's named after the person who found it?
Yeah. There's actually a long, like Sue being in the Field Museum is the result of 20 years of like legal battles between like Sue and the people who owned the land where she found it, and like the government being like, this is important and shouldn't like be owned by a private owner. And I think that at the time it was the most expensive fossil that's ever been bought by a museum.
Oh, wow. So Sue found it and was like, I'm keeping this?
I don't remember the entire story.
This is mine now.
Finders keepers.
Gotta be quicker than that.
You gotta be quicker than that.
After the ownership disputes were settled, the fossil was auctioned in October 1997 for $8.3 million, which was the highest amount ever paid for a dinosaur fossil until October 7th, 2020, when a T-Rex named Stan was auctioned for $31.8 million.
Whoa.
So
what fossil did Nicolas Cage buy?
Nicolas Cage bought another tyrannosaur relative from Mongolia. And he spent a bunch of money on it, but then it turns out that the people who he bought it from brought it out of the country illegally, and he had to return it to Mongolia, but he wasn't refunded the money that he paid for it. And that's why he was in so many bad movies for a long time, is because he had to pay for this fossil that he wasn't even allowed to have anymore.
It seems like he would have had to do those really bad movies anyway.
Maybe. He also bought a castle, so I think that has something to do with it. But anyway, Sue is 85% complete, mostly just missing a couple of vertebrae and a few foot bones. And it's also one of the largest. And she died. Well, the gender has not been determined, or the sex has not been determined, but that's not unusual for dinosaurs. But they died at 28 years old from unknown causes. It had a couple broken ribs and holes in the skull from parasitic infection and a little bit of osteomyelitis. But 28 is pretty much the upper limit for Tyrannosaur age. So yeah.
Wow, Andrew, if you were a Tyrannosaur, you'd be dead.
It's the 27.
Must be
the
nice.
27 club for real.
We would all be dead, to be real, but you would be the most dead.
Yeah.
You'd be dead longer than us.
Number one, baby.
Fuck.
So the Jurassic Park depiction was pretty revolutionary for the time. For how like horizontal and strong and badass it was, and like active. But so the major exception is this whole idea of its vision being based on movement. There's no basis for that in anything. And it was known at the time that this was nothing. They just were like, they needed a reason.
It needs to be engaging. The story needs to be engaging.
It's for story reasons.
He got the flare and he got to sacrifice himself, and he was like, get away from those kids.
T-Rex had phenomenal binocular vision, so it would have been able to tell from the depth perception, and it has one of the largest eyes of any, because it was one of the largest land predators ever. It also had the largest eyes, and its eyes were the size of oranges.
They were the size of a tangerine.
Whoa.
A tangerine. And I was reading a paleontologist review of the movie from 1993, and he said that while the big boom that it makes while walking is really cool, it would have not been an advantageous thing for a predator to have.
Oh my God, shut up, nerd.
And there's no kookaburras in Indiana Jones either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other really cool thing that I like about Tyrannosaurus is that they were what's called puncture pull feeders. So a lot of other large theropods, what they do is they like make an effort to only eat the meat, like to just take bites of meat from their food. The T-Rex would just fucking take a big bite straight into the bone and just rip out huge chunks.
I like to call it the grip it and rip it approach.
Yeah, the grip it and rip it approach. And so consequently, it's easy to identify fossilized poop from T-Rex because it's full of bone chunks.
Fuck, that's hardcore.
Their skull shape was like perfect for these really strong bites. It's reinforced in the right places. And their teeth were thick and peg-like and able to maintain a lot of like force like that. And they're the size of bananas, which is crazy.
Their teeth were the size of bananas?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Can you imagine a banana going through you? That's messed up.
And so the puncture wounds from these have been found in lots of different animal skeletons. Sometimes they would take a bite and the prey would get away for whatever reason and it would like heal. And there's one Edmontosaurus, which is a hadrosaur, which is like a duck-billed dinosaur, that was found with a T-Rex tooth lodged in between two of the tail vertebrae. So it managed to get away.
That's cool.
But they're pretty confident that it would just grip it and rip it when it was eating, which is insanity to me.
That's nuts.
So since 1993, the skeletal arrangement has been like reevaluated. So let me see. Let me post a picture and let's get Bo's extremely visual version of the differences here.
Okay. I'm ready. Hold on.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready when you're ready. He's got a dad bod. Total dad bod.
Yeah, beer gut for sure.
He drinks 6 Coors Lights after getting home from work.
Its head is like huge compared to the older paleo art.
Mm-hmm.
Big chest, big legs, big tail, but not as big of a tail as I thought.
So it's now pretty much universally agreed upon that the T-Rex was a lot chunkier than they used to think it was. They found these like lower like ribs, like this like thing where the ribs connected. I forget what they're called. But they've been remounted in a lot of museums based on this, and they've got these really big barrel chests. They're a lot thicker than people thought they were before.
Is it like a keel?
Kind of like a keel, but not at all. What is it called? I forgot to write it down. Gastralia.
No, you pronounce it Australia.
But it basically kind of had like an auxiliary rib cage at the bottom.
That's nuts.
Of its chest. And then they found that it likely had these keratinous, like these keratinized eye ridges, like these ridges above its eye.
Oh my gosh, I was going to ask if it was supposed to have eyebrows.
Yeah, so it's got like these keratin eyebrows.
They're bony eyebrows.
Yeah. Now, the big debate now is whether or not it had lips. So this one has lips, whereas the one in the movie doesn't have lips. And this kind of comes to people wondering if it had crocodile-like teeth or if it had more lizardy teeth. So like lizards, like a Komodo dragon, has lips, whereas a crocodile doesn't. And the main difference between that is a crocodile would like go through hundreds of teeth in its lifetime, whereas there's no evidence that T-Rex had more than just the regular amount of teeth. And then if it didn't have lips, then the teeth were exposed all the time. The enamel would be really weak from constantly being dried out and exposed to the air.
And if you're gripping and ripping on the daily, your teeth need to be strong.
So like recently a paper was published in 2023 by a team from Auburn University that was very assertive that they had teeth based on the structure, that they had lips based on the structure of the teeth.
I buy it. I think they're ready for kissing.
Yeah. I'd smooch that dino. Then the other question is whether or not they had feathers. So ancestral tyrannosaurs have been found with feathers. Tyrannus is one that lived in Asia that was large, like not as large as Tyrannosaur, but not like a tiny little baby like Microraptor. And so in 2012, it was found that Tyrannus had full body feathers. And so people started depicting T-Rex with full body feathers around 2012 until impressions of belly skin were found near tracks around 2017, which showed that at the very least, the skin on their bellies was scaly. So now they
found the belly skin near the tracks, like near enough Like on top of it, or like how sure is
Yeah,
the
like-
connection?
Like it was lying down on its tummy.
Okay, all right, I'll allow
And
it.
so, yeah. So the bellies were scaly at least, but we don't know, or like kind of leathery, but we don't know if they had like a mohawk of feathers. And so sometimes you'll see like a mohawk of feathers, or you'll see like sparse, like little quills kind of all around it. Like really, like what's the word? Yeah, sparse, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Huh.
A lot of people theorize that the baby T-Rexes may have had full body
Did they
feathering
theorize,
because
or
one
did they
of the,
hypothesize?
they hypothesized
You dumb
the
bitch.
baby T-Rexes may have had
Yeah.
like full body feathering because they would have needed it for insulation. But as they got bigger, they didn't need it for insulation anymore.
That would be fun. Little baby ones are feathered and the big ones aren't, or just have a
Mhm.
little bit.
Recent CAT scanning of the skull determined that it had an encephalization quotient around 2.0 to 2.4, which is about the same as a chimp. But that doesn't mean that they're as smart as a chimp, because a chimp's brain is way wrinklier than theirs was. And so
Yeah, do the
it was-
endocasts show smooth brains?
yeah, and
Like super smooth?
Yeah, and it's kind of like tubular. It's like tubular with some weird lobes. It's very like a reptilian looking brain. And so most of the brain is the brain matter is concentrated into the olfactory bulbs, which means that it had a
Good
really
smelling.
really crazy sense of smell. And then the rest, like it's very concentrated into the sensory center. So it wasn't as smart as a chimp, but it could sense like fucking Daredevil. And they had these orange sized eyes and like really great vision. They had a really good inner ear. So they were probably very agile and excellent hearing.
Dang.
More has been learned about how they ate as well. There's a big debate going on for a while about whether or not they were a hunter or a scavenger. The main evidence for the scavenger was this like olfactory sense and how good they were at smelling.
But that binocular vision.
But that binocular vision also. The main proponent of the scavenging was also a guy named Jack Horner. And Jack Horner was a pretty good paleontologist, but he's also kind of more infamous now for marrying a 19-year-old undergraduate student of his when he was 65. So what
Ew.
the fuck does this guy know? Fuck that guy.
Yeah, I hate that.
Somebody sliced open some Tyrannosaurus fossils of the bones to examine the growth ring, because bones are kind of like trees in that way, and learned that they lived fast and died young from the ages
Bad
of 10.
girls do it well.
Yeah, from the ages of 10 to 20, bad girls pack on about 1,700 pounds a year,
Whoa.
or 5 pounds a day, and none of the specimens checked lived past 30.
That's the life.
And then finally, the current debates are on the speciation. And so some people say that what we call T-Rex is actually multiple species. There's also another species called Nanotyrannus, which some people say is a very small tyrannosaur, and other probably more correct people say is just a juvenile Tyrannosaurus Rex. And they just looked really different when they were babies, or like their skull shape was kind of different, which is part of the reason why people think that they had different predatory niches as they aged. And then finally, the last thing that I have to say about Rex is that we thought they were a lot faster in the 80s. The one in Jurassic Park, they say they clock out at 35 miles per hour. It's probably more like 20 miles per hour.
That's as much as a Patis monkey can outrun them.
It was a lot of a bulk to move around. And so they had really specialized lungs, like we were talking about earlier. They could have done very quick bursts of movement, but they couldn't maintain it very long. So they probably, like, somehow, for how big they were, would ambush, like hide in the trees and then like burst out from the trees and chase down Triceratops before it could get away,
Wow.
which is cool. So that's everything that I have. We can split this into 2 episodes maybe somehow.
So many dinosaur facts.
Hey, this kind of got out of hand for me because I like writing about dinosaurs. So I've got 5,000 words about dinosaurs. I even cut some stuff out. Like, please compliment me for trying to
Zach.
cut it down. Thank you.
I think you did
Zach.
great.
Good job.
Thank you.
And I really like learning about dinosaurs. But what was your favorite part, Bo?
Well, my favorite part was the lie of that spitting poison dinosaur. He fucking lie. Fucking Steven Spielberg, that fucking lying piece of shit. Like, they'll make stuff about dinosaurs if you don't know what dinosaurs actually fucking look like with their Mr. Burns hands.
I think maybe they gave them all Mr. Burns' hands so that they could open the door. They could have the moment where the Velociraptors open the door.
But they couldn't have because they couldn't turn their hands.
Yeah.
Andrew, what was your favorite part?
I like learning about the fuckture. I thought that was cool. I do like that some of dinosaurs actually had some sort of a fur/feather thing. Because,
Yeah.
big lizards, dumb, stupid. Lizards, don't like them in general. But fluffy stuff, even some birds, they're okay.
There's like this weird tangent of people, or like this weird coalition of people online where anytime you start talking about feathered dinosaurs, they're like, I think that T-Rex is cooler if it's not like a chicken. Like, it's lame that people want to turn dinosaurs into chickens. What if it's like just a big fluffy songbird? That's dumb. And those people have never been within 20 feet of an emu.
It's dumb. It's dumb. But
And also, dinosaurs were real animals, not movie monsters. And it's
big
more interesting
lizards
to
are
learn more about them.
cool.
I mean, big lizards are cool. And
Big lizards are cool.
birds are very scary, and they're both scary, but...
Yeah. Haha, you thought this was an episode about dinosaurs, but I'm just turning it back into birds.
No, Big always comes back to birds!
I birded you.
My
bitch.
favorite part was learning about the fuckture. I'd be very interested in learning more about fuckture in the future. I love that fossil that you sent of the raptor and the little triceratops locked in battle. It's super cool.
So,
There's a lot
Zach,
of
what
cool
would
fossils.
what would you give up truly? What would you give to go back in time for
And see.
2 weeks and see these safely?
I would give up my right pinky finger.
That's it. All right, but what would you give up?
That's pretty. I think
Zach's
that's
right pinky finger.
See, that's good. See, he's not losing anything. That's a better answer.
All right, fine. I give up Bo's right pinky finger.
Well,
Okay.
I don't have one, so guess what?
Deal. Yeah, I already took it to go back in time and see what the Titanic looked like.
Oh, yeah? Was that a good time?
Was it worth it?
That was dope. It was dope.
Because my grips
tell
have been
you.
very bad lately.
Let me tell you, those guys playing the violins went down. They nailed that.
Yeah.
Zach, what was your favorite part about researching this episode?
I think my favorite part, because I don't know, it was just kind of weird, is how Brachiosaurus is actually Giraffatitan now.
That is weird. It's a
Sounds like
different
a
thing.
monster.
My second favorite part
Giraffatitan, I will maintain, is the dumbest name.
is a pretty dumb name. My second favorite part is how hardcore that Dilophosaurus was.
Oh, the one with all the pathology?
Yeah.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
What
or
killed the
when Darwin
dinosaurs?
called-
It's cancer.
Yeah.
The true enemy all
Or-
along.
How Darwin was sassy about how Richard Owen's a bitch and a hater.
That is funny. They literally said, he hates me. He hate me because he ain't me. And that's on that.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
very much to the hosts to the other hosts here for not rebelling and forcing me to stop
I thought you were-
45 minutes ago.
I thought you were
We were very
thinking
close.
yourself for a second.
Thank you to the host because I'm very good at this and I did a good
It
job.
wouldn't be the first time that Zach patted his own back on this podcast, and it definitely won't be the
Good job,
last.
Zach. I'm patting
I
your
didn't
back.
pat myself. I'm not patting my back. I'm saying thank you to Bo and Andrew for not revolting and forcing me to stop 45 minutes ago.
Tell the folks where they can find us if they want more.
If you want to hear more of this podcast, find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts. We are called Get Dumped On and Info Dump Podcast. You can also find us on Instagram at Get Dumped On Podcast and send us an email to getdumpedonpodcast@gmail.com. Every hump day is dump day, which means that we post new episodes every Wednesday. So tune in, tune out, tune back in, tune over, then tune under, and Looney Tunes.
Okay, goodbye.
It's almost midnight. Bye.
Okay,
Love you. Bye.
Ashton and Zach are super smart. They went to college and learned a bunch of stuff. And Bo and Andrew didn't go to college because that's just the way life goes sometimes. What happens when you put them together and you try to make them learn? Grab your friends, let's listen together on Get Dumped On an Info Dump Podcast.
Ash, give me that T-Rex noise one more time.